time on Dities.
8 for lonely dudes who get no bitches and stack no paper. Main leads are both legal adults. Voluntarily renting cheese away.
And you broke monkey.
Yep, I'm milking it.
Getting shit, bitch.
We're back, bitches! What's happening? It's your boy Dity with a T. Welcome back to Ditties, a show where I talk about pieces of media that I find interesting. We're back at it with some more loser anime designed and made to milk the most money out of basement dwellers who desperately crave a woman's touch. The support I got from the last video was overwhelming, and I'd like to take a second to thank returning viewers who happened to watch the first one. Not only did I get validation in being able to keep doing the things that I enjoy doing as a content creator, but thanks to the ad revenue that I got from that video, I could afford another month of my favorite OnlyFans account, raunchy pics of beef stromboli. Look, it's an Italian thing.
But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrifice.
And to new viewers, this goes without saying, but check out the first video first before you do this one. Otherwise, some of the comparisons that I make in this video won't make much sense. Okay. So, I'd like to begin with a few things as an introductory. Now that we've talked about loser anime at length for an entire video, what is a loser anime? I thought I explained it well enough in the first video, but a lot of people are seemingly still confused on what can be classified as one. Make no mistake, a loser anime is not an anime where the protagonist is a loser. Far from it. No, what I'm referring to when I say loser anime is a subtle way of not getting demonetized for saying the actual genre. Anime for dudes who get no bitches and stack no paper. But commodity, a lot of shows could fall under that category. I think you're just being a gatekeeping little bitch. Maybe so, but to help you identify what I would consider a bitchless virgin anime, I've constructed a definition of the subgenre so that you too can become an expert at identifying these shows and exercising caution upon viewing them, because you might not always get a dress-up darling or a komi. Sometimes, if you're not careful, you could end up watching a Rent-A-Girlfriend. Loser anime. Anime designed, produced, and made with the intentions of milking the most money out of losers who live in their mom's basement. In order to be considered a loser anime, alternatively known as virgin bait, or anime for dudes who get no bitches and stack no paper, a show must have the following. A male protagonist that the losers in the audience can easily put themselves in the shoes of. Either a single female love interest or a harem. Must be a slice of life romantic comedy and must feel specifically catered to basement dwellers. I got suggestions for shows like Watamode, Tomo-chan, Bunny Girl Senpai, Love is War, and Monster Musume. And while, yeah, some of these shows aren't exactly the pinnacle of what's acceptable to be watching in public, they fail in one or more of these categories, so I wouldn't exactly consider them part of this strange little subgenre that's been culminating recently. By the way, just a little side tangent, if Bunny Girl Senpai or Love is War ended up here, they'd both be S tier. Both insanely good shows. Check them out if you haven't. Finally, before we move on to the shows I've selected for today, I do just want to adjust one of my rankings from before. A lot of you Komi fans are going to be happy about this. I'm actually going to move Komi up to A tier. There she goes. Right up where she belongs. I still think the problems I had with the show are valid, but looking back, I think I was a little too hard on the show. And since the tier list is supposed to be like a comparison of these shows when paired against each other, I just think that some of the shows that I watched for this ranking, the bar has definitely been lowered. So, Komi gets to by default, basically, move up a spot, but she is now an A tier. Congratulations, Komi. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on to the show. So for this episode, I'm trying something a little different. I don't know how well my audio is going to pick up. I'll switch to my phone audio in case this sounds like shit. But I have four. There should be four. Where's the fourth one? There are 4 vanilla folders, and unlike last time, I didn't skip a single entry for these shows, not one. So if that explains why this video took so long, well, there you go. I had to get through multiple 2-season or more shows in the span of like a month. You know, ideally, with these, you know, the folder gimmick makes each show a surprise. You know, you never know what you're gonna get. I could be opening your favorite anime. But yeah, just don't check the timestamps of this video if you want them to be a surprise. You know, also you could probably guess some of them based on, you know, the thumbnail of this video. But hey, you know, thought it'd be a neat idea. You know, wanted to be cute. You know, have a little unboxing before each ranking. All right. Sound good? Okay, let's move on to show 1, baby. Woo!
Not sure if there's a better way to do this, but I'm gonna do it like this. It's like I'm right behind you. What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Well, that's a fucking obnoxious title. For the sake of brevity, I'm gonna refer to this one as Girl Online. Now, some of you out there might be saying, Commodity, what the hell is this? Well, for this ranking, I was having a bit of a conundrum. See, I needed to watch shows fast to get this video out as quickly as possible. Prior to the first loser anime video, I'd watched Nagatoro, Komi, and Dress Up Darling, so all I really needed to watch was Uzaki and Rent a Girlfriend. For this one though, I had to find some new material to work with the exception of this show and one other which we'll get to. In my pursuit to trying to cut down the workload faster for Loser Anime 2, I had a brain blast and remembered I watched this piece of garbage in its entirety when I was just a wee lad, maybe about 15 or so. So I figured, hey, what the hell? It fits my definition of a loser anime and it's only 12 episodes. Why not throw it in just for kicks and giggles? And you know what? It honestly wasn't the complete waste of time I thought it was going to be. Dare I say this show is decent? Okay, but you didn't answer my question though. What the fuck is this? Well, let me jog your memory. You might not know what this show is at first glance, but have you seen this scene?
1週間も部屋に閉じこもったらトイレどうするんだよ。それはもちろんペットボトルで処理。お前この
Yeah, to some of you, this show might finally start to look familiar, and all it took was a scene of the main character drinking some piss.
Thank you for saving me. I was so thirsty.
The clip was originally what got me interested in the show in the first place, and what's so funny about it, it's basically out of left field. I mean, the show doesn't really do anything like that again. It's such a one-off gag, and it's so totally different to the rest of the series, I'm honestly surprised it was there. But yeah, clip made its rounds, got pretty popular on Instagram, Twitter, maybe TikTok years later, and that's how so many people, including myself, saw this strange little 12-episode slice of life rom-com about an MMO. This is Girl Online. For the record, he wasn't actually drinking piss, it was green tea. It was just like a subversion kind of thing. Don't want to get demonetized. Can you get demonetized for drinking piss?
I certainly hope not.
The show follows Rusian. That's his gamer tag, and I honestly forgot his real name, but they don't really call him anything other than Rusian, so it doesn't really matter. So Rusian plays a game called Legendary Age, which is usually abbreviated to LA, and in this game he meets Akko, his soon-to-be in-game wife. Rusian and Akko form a guild with 2 other guys, Schwein and Master. And they do the typical MMO things like slay monsters, loot dungeons, participate in ERP, you know, that sort of thing. One day Master gets the idea of meeting in real life. Coincidentally, they're all in Japan. And coincidentally, they all are girls, except for the main character. And coincidentally, they're all in the same high school. And coincidentally, Akko grows an attachment to the main character. Yeah, it's one of those shows. Yeah, it's stupid, I know. Look, we'll get to it, but yeah, they're all in the same high school. Akko has an extremely tough time not violating social boundaries with Rusian until it's revealed that she can't separate game and reality. Rusian to her is the same both in and out of the game, and that means she loves him as a wife would in real life. In other words, Akko has super duper autism. A club for MMO games is then formed by Master, and the show follows them playing LA after school with the sub-goal of getting Akko to unblur the line between fiction and reality. Look, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I'm not gonna pretend that this show is better than it is, because I mean, like, just by its premise, you could tell by me describing this show to you that it sounds like ass and probably doesn't break the season 1 pipeline bullcrap that we've talked about before. And it doesn't, but credit where credit is due. I could totally see this show being someone's guilty pleasure. It's fun enough to where if you turn your brain off and like don't think too hard like Akko, you can have a fun time. Should I just get all the bad stuff out of the way now? I mean, shoot, why not? For starters, this show has terrible art. The animation itself looks fine. I mean, they were probably working on a low budget, so I understand. It's not the Mona Lisa, the creme de la creme of slice of life anime, but some of these shots just look straight up unfinished. You can literally see the compression pixels on a lot of characters.
That's quite big.
And a lot of the backgrounds, especially for skits, are either just generic set pieces or flat colors. The only time the show looks visually distinct is when they enter LA, and I'll admit, the fight scenes they do are pretty cool. At the very least, it's a nice change of pace from the shows we've covered thus far that have strayed the path from anything similar, but it doesn't save the show's awful art. Like, why are Schwein's eyes doing this like all the time? Seriously, they cannot get this girl's eyes right in any scene.
Never buy no weed from the gas station, bro.
The characters are generic and don't leave much to be desired. The MC's boring and forgettable. Schwein seems like she might have something going on with her not wanting to be associated with gamers, but then they kind of just forget about that. And Master is an unsubtle but inoffensive class president stereotype. I want to say Akko is my favorite, but even then, her lack of distinction from fiction and reality comes off as incredibly forced, and while it does lead to some sweet moments like Lucian consoling her in her bedroom and trying to get her out of her shell, it doesn't save the fact that she is extremely smooth-brained and for all intensive purposes shouldn't be alive right now. I want to watch a full episode of Akko trying to learn how to operate a stove, and if she can't get it on within the runtime, we take her out back and shoot her. Akko is by far the most catered to basement dwellers out of every female lead on this list, and it's not even close. My enjoyment for her comes the fact that she's stupid, which I find entertaining. But I can't deny that the small bean housewife pseudo yandere who needs to be protected character they paint her as is annoyingly transparent. They might as well put a sign around her saying, "Put a figurine of me in a jar and do unspeakable acts of God against me." The girl was made to sell hard. There's another major character called Neko Hime in this who was introduced to the audience as a 30-year-old man who plays a cat girl in LA, and at first I was like, okay, this is gonna be my favorite character. The idea of a cat girl played by a middle-aged dude just sounded really appealing to me and could have been the setup to a lot of great jokes, but alas, Neko Hime turns out to actually be a woman, and not just any woman, a faculty member who is coincidentally at the MMO Club's high school. I suppose now would be the best time to talk about this. This show is unrealistic as fuck. So you're telling me that these players in LA all happen to be within Japan. Okay, sure, reasonable. They're playing on Japanese servers, that's fair enough. Then you want me to believe that they're all within the same region. Okay, slightly less realistic, but fine. Same high school, starting to be stupid. All members of the guild are women except for this one generic dude. Stupid. But then, on top of that, the character who was introduced to us as a catgirl avatar being played by a 30-year-old man happens to be a 30-year-old woman who works at the school where the same kids play and becomes the chaperone of the club. That's just really fucking stupid. Neko Hime would be infinitely better if it was literally just some 30-year-old guy who occasionally gave the MC some uncle-like advice through the visage of a cute cat girl. I mean, at least they used the same voice actor in and out of the game, and they changed their pitch to reflect that. That's kind of neat. Wait a minute. Hey, I know that! Very nice woman. That's Monica Real. She's in every single one of these shows. She's voiced Uzaki, she's in Dress Up Darling, and I have no doubt we'll see her again later. This lady makes bank off of loser animes, I swear. Honestly, no discredit to her. She's proven she can be an extremely capable actor when given the right script and direction. I mean, she voices Bulma, for Christ's sake. She just puts on the same voice for all of these slice of life characters that she voices, and it's this nasally kid-like voice, and honestly, every time I hear it, again, no disrespect, Vegeta.
You're on thin ice, honky.
I just immediately kind of knock a few points from my I'm trying to say that in the nicest way possible that I hate the voice that she does for these shows without sounding like a dick. Okay? There. I said it.
Commodity, this is the CEO of Funimation. I'm blacklisting you from the industry, kid.
Did he really say that?
No, it's not true. It's not true. You gotta believe me. I love black people. That being said, get your bag, Monica. I see you out there on that grind and respect the hell out of you for it. It's gotta suck being in more than one of these. You might think with all this complaining that I hate this show. On the contrary, I had fun with this one. The show is just stupid, okay? And I find it a lot easier to complain because I'm a negative Nancy. Let me bring up some positives. Would you believe me if I said this show had villains? Yeah, believe me, I was shocked too. There are genuine evil dudes in this show. There's a hacker that deletes all the items in Rusian's inventory. There's a troll who takes advantage of the club when they try to raid a fortress for their school festival. And both of these occurrences have like elaborate little schemes and plans constructed by the protagonist to take these guys down. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't have fun during that entire sequence. It's just objectively funny for a show like this to have villains in the first place, and I think that's why I found it so funny, but it doesn't change the fact that it is a positive that does work in the show's benefit. And for as stupid as Akko is, the concept of her being unable to separate fiction and reality, while fundamentally basic on the surface, could have worked if retooled slightly to be less obvious. Rusian gradually learning that his love for Akko transcends the game, and that it was okay to blur that line sometimes because at the end of the day the game characters represent a bit of ourselves, even if small, struck home for me as an avid D&D player.
Come on, V. I didn't know you were gay.
Hey, by curious, buddy, don't get it twisted.
$20,000.
I know I had a lot of negatives to say about this show, but honestly, it's not offensively bad. It's just kind of mid. That's why I think I'll be putting this one in C tier. Could have been a B with some extra polish, but I think C tier is where I'm most comfortable with it being for now. Also, Akko looks like she stinks. I couldn't find a better place to put this, but yeah, wash your damn hair. I mentioned earlier that there were two shows I watched before my first loser anime video popped off. The first was Girl Online, which I'm honestly kind of surprised I even remembered. This show, though, I had no trouble remembering at all. Chuunibyou is one of those shows that sticks with you for life if you watch it at a young age. And no matter how good it may be, it too, unfortunately, falls under the loser anime umbrella. But does that mean it's bad? Hell no. A show being a loser anime doesn't automatically mean it's bad, and shows like Chuunibyou prove that point perfectly. This show is awesome, and I will sing its praises to high heaven until the day I fucking die. Not gonna lie though, I was really worried going back to this one, as I knew one of two things were possible. I could either go back and it wasn't going to be as good as I remembered, or I could be blinded by nostalgia goggles and rate this show unfairly. Thankfully, I think I've managed to take my bias out when determining the quality of this show, and came to the conclusion that 10 years later, yeah, this show still fucks. And I'd even argue that it was better than I remembered. The show follows Yuta and Rikka. Yuta is a reformed Chuunibyou kid. Chuunibyou basically being that stage in Japanese kids' lives where they think or pretend that they're an anime character with magic powers and junk. For comparison, just imagine if like kids today made an overpowered creepypasta OC, only instead of uploading those OCs online, they went to school pretending that they were those characters. Rikka, on the other hand, has yet to grow out of her Chuunibyou phase and follows Yuta around since Yuta was once the Dark Flame Master, the wielder of an ancient dragon buried deep within himself. The show follows them and their club, the Far East Magical Nap Society, or something. I forgot what it was called. It's purposely long and convoluted, but they participate in wacky hijinks and slowly growing closer romantically, as Yuta slowly goes from renouncing his Chuunibyou ways to appreciating them as he bonds with Rikka. So right away, some of you might be scratching your heads at me, maybe even shaking your fists. Hey, you YouTube man, those aren't the names of the characters. What gives? Well, as it turns out, the dub changes some of the titles given to the characters and club names to more naturally translate the odd Chuunibyou phrases into English. For example, Rikka's eye is called the Tyrant's Eye in Japanese, but with all the lip flapping you need to say that in Japanese, you couldn't naturally dub it in English as Tyrant's Eye, so they changed it to Eye of the Wicked Lord. Get what I mean so far? So yeah, for any confused, that's why some of the names are different. Just thought I should mention that for any of my sub viewers watching. But speaking of the dub, once again, this show and other loser animes on this list knock it out of the park with their casting, delivery, and timing, for the most part. I'll admit, Rikka's dub voice actor took me some getting used to, since her voice is a lot different than the sub, which is what I originally watched it with. But after watching it for a bit, I actually kind of prefer her dub voice. Maybe less prefer and more of it being like a side grade. I know, still blasphemous to say, but hear me out, let me cook. I think giving Rikka a voice that's more malleable fits her more as a dumbass kid pretending to be cool compared to her just sort of putting on a generic anime moe voice in Japanese. In English, her deeper voice is off-putting at first until you hear her squeal or something, and then she goes back to sounding like a kid in a Fortnite Among Us server. Everyone else is perfect. Hey, wait a minute.
Delivering this to Takanashi's place.
Hey! Get back here! The art is astounding. It's jarring going from Girl Online to this show. With a studio like KyoAni behind it, I always knew the show was gonna look good, but holy hell! This is probably the best looking show, not just in this video, but on this list. The colors are all pretty, the designs are cute, the set pieces are beautiful, the cinematography and framing are top notch, and the fight choreography goes hard. If I had just one teensy tiny little complaint, it's that the characters kind of all have same face syndrome. I mean, they all look like they just walked out of a K-On! Character creator, but honestly, that's fine. I don't really care about that as much as other artists do. The music, though, ooh, something else. The openings, endings, and soundtrack are all fire, particularly OP2, ED1, and the battle tracks. Something I haven't really brought up a lot when talking about these shows is their soundtracks, because more often than not, they're very samey and blend into each other, like they're made in a factory. The songs feel cloned. Like, you guys ever notice that these shows have like the same recorder MIDI that's used whenever something stupid happens? Word of advice to any professional Japanese soundtrack composers listening right now, as unlikely as that may be, there's other funny sounding instruments out there.
This Tomaso white boy just said I can no longer use recorders. I'd better pull out the didgeridoo.
The art and music are just two of Chuunibyou's strengths, among the many other strong suits it possesses. Like, for example, the characters. Yuta might be my favorite protagonist from this list of shows. At first, it's so easy just to write him off as being a boring male lead who you're meant to envision yourself as, and you can do that, otherwise it wouldn't be considered for this video, but his growth throughout the show is unlike anything seen here. Before episode 1, Yuta is a Chuunibyou kid, the Dark Flame Master, destroyer of worlds, slayer of men, and liver of mom's basement, but we see him grow out of that phase and begin to resent it. It was only through meeting Rikka that he learned to not only appreciate his past, but embrace it, occasionally donning the moniker once more when it suits him. Some of the best parts of this show are when Yuta adopts the Dark Flame Master persona again. It's usually in pursuit of making Rikka happy or convincing her to do something stupid like,
Rikka, the Dark Flame Dragon commands you to take out the garbage.
Or, you know, something like that. Nevertheless, it's always appreciated when it happens, and it reminds the audience that Yuta is more than a one-dimensional cardboard cutout of a protagonist. He has depth, and that depth is explored further with his extremely well-written relationship with Rikka. At the start of the show, Rikka idolized Yuta because of his Chuunibyou, and after that phase ended for him, Rikka tries to pull him back in. As the show goes on, we learn that Rikka uses Chuunibyou and the fantasy world that she lives in as a coping mechanism for dealing with her father's passing. Rikka and her dad used to watch the lights from the sailboats and ships along the ocean when she was little, and this became associated cognitively with her father, becoming the symbol of afterlife for Rikka, the invisible boundary line. There was a point in the show where Rikka dropped Chuunibyou per the request of her sister, Toka, who is a baddie, by the way, golly! And she does so. Yuta, seeing the error of his ways, tells Rikka to instead embrace it. Yuta takes her to see the lights along the horizon and lets her envision her father one last time and say goodbye, proving to Toka that having a sense of wonder and childhood whimsy is not always something that you should take away once you reach adulthood. You can see that Yuta truly cares for Rikka through his actions, not his words. A lot of the time in these shows, the protagonist will say something like, "You're pretty," or "You're very special to me," on accident, but this is why I like protagonists like Gojo and Yuta. The best scene in this show for me is the rooftop scene. For those that don't know, Rikka makes her introduction in episode 1 by descending down to Yuta's balcony via a rope. Yuta is there when she first arrives and helps her down by cupping her feet. Around the halfway point of the first season, Rikka and Yuta are chilling on the rooftop when suddenly Rikka slips and is about to fall. Unable to catch her and unable to pull her up, Yuta instead rockets down to the floor below and helps her down in the same way that he did when he met her. Now you as an audience member know that Rikka is not gonna fall off this roof, but it's sweet nonetheless. It is set up, payoff, and it shows that from the very start, Yuta has always been there to care for Rikka. It's this and the fact that he's always doing little things to help Rikka, like helping her with her math homework, buying her a new umbrella, etc. Some Chuunibyou fans might actually protest my feelings towards Yuta with saying that he hits her, and like, yeah, he does do that. Occasionally for a gag, Yuta will bop Rikka on the head or smack her, punch her, pull her hair, whatever. But here's the thing, that just kind of happens to everyone in this show. Like, characters will just randomly punch each other for no reason. Slapstick is a common occurrence in the Chuunibyou world. Point is, even though it does kind of silly things like just teensy tiny bit, I don't think it matters too much. The relationship is still well written. The other characters are great too. I wasn't the biggest fan of Nibutani, another character regretful of her Chuunibyou past, because she can be kind of a bitch sometimes and not in a funny way, but the moments where she adopts her old persona as Mori Summer are sweet, and I like her relationship with Dekamori. Dekamori is Rikka's faithful servant, a middle schooler who is also stuck in Chuunibyou. I'd be lying if I said she wasn't annoying on certain occasions, but they know when to draw the line when it comes to her overstaying her welcome. She's also the focal point for one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, the train scene. By this point in the story, Yuta is at his lowest and just wants to help Rikka grow out of her Chuunibyou, and in his desperation he breaks down and takes it all out on Dekamori. He says it's not real, and it never has been, and that it won't help Rikka to think it has been. To which Dekamori starts to cry and says, "I know that. I've always known that." I love this scene. It's so heartbreaking, and I'm gonna be honest, in full expectation of being called a bitch in the comments, this scene was the closest I got to crying in one of these shows. It's painfully well done, and it's just a gut punch to see this character so full of childish whimsy forced to face reality after Yuta's back was pushed against a wall. I could keep going about how much I love this scene, but for the sake of brevity, let's move on to Kumin, the junior of the club. I like her. She's soft, sweet, and isn't like amazingly written or anything, but she's just kind of silly and nice to have around. Ishiki is edging the perverted male trope, but they make it clear it's a bad thing, and he never gets to the point where he's like sexually harassing women. Well, physically anyway. He's a good guy at the end of the day, and he only really does perverted things out of a want for love. Not anything sexual, except for that one time he ranked all the girls in class and he wrote it down. Yeah, I can't defend bro on that one.
You gotta be ashamed of yourself.
Honestly, my biggest complaint about Ishiki is the fact that they kind of write him out of the show. He was a big part of season 1, but come season 2, he's barely used. It turns into one of those like one guy, 100 girl shows, and it's like, come on, this is a bit excessive, don't you think? Like, at least have some balls and make Yuta a woman too if you're gonna go this route. Oh, they did? Well, okay. And this joke with Ishiki aged horribly. I'm not gonna deny that it's really funny, but yeesh. The point I'm trying to make is that I like Ishiki, and I'm a vehement believer in the fact that adding a bro character to any show, but particularly loser animes, is always appreciated. What I don't appreciate though is this next character, and debatably my only big flaw with the show, Sarone. Sarane gets introduced in season 2 as the rival love interest, and the story with Rikka and Yuta takes a backseat sometimes to her antics. I'm not a big fan of how she was introduced to the story at all. First of all, she's meant to be the person that got Yuta into Chuunibyou, but she was never there was a big ass crash. First of all, she's meant to be the person that got Yuta into Chuunibyou, but she was never spoken about at all prior to her introduction in season 2. No hints, no flashbacks, nothing. I'm not saying every character needs to be a Chekhov's gun, but this late into the story when Yuta and Rikka have already established their relationship, not only do you know that there's no way Yuta's going to pick her, so there's no stakes, but it doesn't make sense for him to not mention her ever prior to this point. The fact that they appear so close and threaten Rikka's relationship status in canon makes her seem like a badly written OC that was just put in the show for no reason. Then they go and spend countless moments and episodes dedicated to her being a drama queen and getting over her feelings for Yuta. She has no character other than being the alpha version of Rikka. And when I say alpha, I don't mean alpha male, I mean like alpha old. Every time she's on screen, she's just reminiscing about Yuta while some sad piano music playing like, "Man, I remember when I wanted to fuck Yuta, and I didn't. Now I'm gonna make it everyone's problem." And then she does that stupid ass laugh. That stupid ass annoying laugh that she always does. Fuck you. And for God's sake, when you reconnect with a childhood friend you've had a crush on, and they clearly have their partner with them, like what else could you fucking be? Don't give them an Eskimo kiss, bruh. Is she acoustic?
Yes.
But yeah, she's the only real flaw I have with the show. Love, Chuunibyou, and Other Delusions is otherwise a surprisingly in-depth, nuanced, comfy show that has lovable characters in a cozy world. There's so much warmth at this show's core, whether it be the amazing backdrops and colors of rural Japan, or just something as simple as how Rikka's classmates befriend her after she decides to come out of her shell and normally socialize. It has a good protagonist, good romance, cute character designs, a good story. I mean, shit, what else do you want me to say here? Easiest S tier of my fucking life. Get up there. Ugh. Also, for one last point, Toka is legitimately the baddest bitch I've ever seen. If you look like this and live in this region of Pennsylvania, please hit me up.
Don't go anywhere yet. We'll be right back with more commodity.
Special feature.
Huh?
I woke up in the freshest hell on a Monday. I can't go to hell, I went to church last Sunday.
The beloved anime series Chuunibyou Love and Other Delusions turns 10 years old this year. In the time after the show's cancellation, many of its loyal viewers have been wondering what the cast and characters have been getting up to. This is where they are now.
An error? No. This must be a thinly veiled message created by the demon within my Dell Optiplex desktop PC with Intel Core i5-4570 processor, 8 gigabytes memory, and 2 terabyte hard drive. Be gone, foul beast! Release Microsoft spreadsheets at once so I can continue my duties. Reality rejected. Synapses shattered. Banishment from this world!
Takanashi, for fuck's sake! It's 8 a.m. on a Tuesday! Why the fuck are you yelling?
Sorry.
Takanashi, you haven't gotten shit done lately. I was okay with you being a bit of a freak before, but it's really halting our progress, okay? Last week, we had to spend 2 hours fishing you out of the conveniently placed nets outside of our windows that are totally not there for anything that'd trigger YouTube's demonetization system.
I understand, boss-san.
And you know you can't smoke in here, right? Bitch. Bitch, is that fucking weed?
Yeah, dude.
You stupid little whore! You know that's illegal here, right? You've until the end of the day to get these reports done and to clean up all this shit, or you're fired!
Oh, man. I wonder what Utah's doing right now.
At least it's not Nagatoro.
I see you got the extra whipped cream in there, huh?
Yeah.
Yummers.
We're back with more commodity.
Teasing Master Takagi-san is the most boring, the most excruciatingly boring show I've ever had the displeasure of watching. Look, shitposting aside, I was really disappointed with this one. When I chose not to include it in my original loser anime video, it wasn't because I actually watched it and didn't like it. I just kind of thought it'd be funny. I don't know. The idea of a show following middle schoolers just didn't seem that appealing to me in the first place. I already feel like enough of a pedo creep watching Nagatoro, but people reassured me that it's actually like super wholesome with absolutely no sexual humor whatsoever. It's just a cute young romance. Did we watch the same show? No, like for real, I don't know why so many people said this show doesn't have sexual content, because it does. It's not as bad as Nagatoro, but like it's still weird because these characters look 10 times more like actual children. There are constant shots of Tagaki's ass and legs. She's always teasing Nishikata about being a pervert. Nishikata always has internal monologues about being a pervert. Seriously, did you guys just forget what you watched? I don't blame you, because this show is boring as fuck. I wish I could have forgot it too. It's more boring than the worst episodes of Komi, more boring than the worst episodes of Nagatoro, and more boring than an entire shift at Arby's.
Oh, brother!
I'm coming undone a little. Getting a little man boob action. Before I get ahead of myself, I'll give a brief plot synopsis, if you can even call it that. Tagaki and Nishikata are two middle school students who engage in psychological warfare with each other, and by that, I mean they play childish games with each other and bet on who would win. These games are almost always won by Tagaki, and it becomes a stakeless, mundane romp through childhood romance where you always know what's going to happen. Nothing catches you by surprise, nothing exciting or interesting happens. It is as safe as a slice of life can be. The art style is weird. Everyone's got these big ass heads and they don't look their age. For reference, Nishikata is supposed to be the same age as Gojo.
What?
I get it's the style. Okay, cool, whatever. But if they wanted to keep the sex jokes with these characters, why the hell didn't they just make them look like a little bit old? Is that too much to ask? I got so many comments along the lines of, the characters are fictional, why does it matter if they're underaged? Or, you're not supposed to take it seriously, it's not that deep. Here's the thing, it matters way more if the characters look like children compared to if they don't. Like, Marin is 16, but if you told me she was 18, I would believe you because she's drawn to look like she could actually be an adult woman. In that scenario, I can understand why the "it's just a drawing, bro" defense is used. However, there comes a point where the characters look so young that it ascends past the stuff that I'm willing to put aside for the sake of just enjoying the show and call it out for what it is. It's the reason I went so hard on Nagatoro, but say what you will about Nagatoro, at least it had balls. The point I'm trying to say is that contrary to what Twitter thinks, you can rank pedophilia based on how egregious it is. And this show is just constantly edging that fine line between what can be passed off as acceptable and borderline EDP shit. Yes, Japan has different standards for age of consent. Yes, it's just a drawing. I'm still uncomfortable, and if you're one of those people who thinks this show had nothing sexual in it, go back and watch any random episode from season 2 or below and take a shot anytime Tagaki calls Nishikata a pervert or mentions anything about sex, you'll be dead from alcohol poisoning before you can call me a tasteless hack in the comments section. Guarantee it. I will give this show the same benefit of the doubt that I gave Nagatoro in judging it outside of its occasional weird pervert shit. Is there something of value here? No, I don't think so. And unlike other shows, there's 3 seasons of this pile of garbage and a movie. And I had to sit through it all. Please like and subscribe. Let's start with my big narrative issue with the show. So the stuff outside of the kiddie bullshit. Okay? It's writing. It's predictable as hell. Tagaki is written to always win, and when she doesn't, it's so minimal and unfulfilling that it doesn't even matter. Sometimes the show will have Nishikata monologue about how he's going to foil Tagaki by anticipating her answering one of his questions correctly, but then she'll go and answer wrong, either on purpose or she just won't care that she got it wrong. She's omnipotent.
This is big brain time.
And knows Nishikata's every move to a ludicrous degree. The games they play are never fun or interesting because you always know what's going to happen. There might be small contrivances that give the illusion of subversion, but it always leads to the same endpoint. It's Tom and Jerry with extra steps. If you watch this show expecting a decent romance, you'll be sadly mistaken as well. There's no tension here. It's all extremely safe. And you know by the end they're going to get together because Tagaki is shown as an adult with a kid by the mid-half of season 2. Nothing is here to keep you guessing. You're never left wondering who's going to win in one of their many already mind-numbing games. If you can even call them that. I would unironically have more fun watching the characters play golf for an entire episode than what the anime considers to be worthwhile content for 11 minutes of an episode. And yes, I said 11 minutes because half of this show isn't even about Tagaki and Nishikata. It's about these fucking brats. Who? These 3 little girls whom I've already forgotten the name of. Yeah, as if the writing wasn't weak enough, they can't even find enough content to fill in a full 20-minute episode. So these 3 come along at random intervals and spout some random dumb shit and contribute nothing to the overall narrative. They barely even interact with the main leads despite being the deuteragonist. Why are they here? What purpose do they serve? Who are you people?
Who are you people?
And you know what? I could forgive that. You know, like, I'm not like a huge stickler. Like, I don't think a show has to be like perfectly by the books to be enjoyable. Okay, if the show was funny, okay, if the show was funny, I'd be like, okay, you know, like, has some flaws. It's funny. I enjoyed it, but it's not even funny. It's not even funny. Like, the jokes are all either just too safe or too cringeworthy, and they play on you having empathy for the embarrassing things for Nishikata and other characters do. It's so weird. Like, this show treats its humor like a Nick Jr. show half the time, but then all of a sudden, bam, left hook, titty and ass, all of a sudden, just, it's out of nowhere. It's so jarring. It's like High Garden Spice.
What?
You remember when that show came out, everyone was like, this is just a kid's show with blood? This feels like that, but if the blood was titties. Who is this show made for?
Talk to him. I like this one.
Okay, let me calm down. Going back to a previous point, the whole point of this show is that these childish games and bets that the main leads have are, you know, they suck. But let's take a look at another show, that has a very similar concept that I happen to quite enjoy. And I've actually mentioned it, not just on my channel, but in this video. Love is War. What makes Love is War's execution of this concept so much better in comparison? Well, in Love is War, the main leads both sort of do a similar thing. Every episode has 3 segments, with 1 or more of those segments dedicated to Kaguya and Shirogane trying to make each other confess. This can be through small gestures like accepting to walk home with the other in the rain, or stuff like admitting that the other looks cute in cat ears. In that show, it works because the tension derives from who's going to confess first, and in each episode, the characters are equally matched. Kaguya has just as much of a chance to win in one of these little love battles as Shirogane. And it's funny! It's dramatized, funny, charming, interesting, and it keeps you engaged despite the very similar premise to Tagaki-san. It's also just better because, unlike Tagaki-san, I actually like the characters in Love is War. They're all fleshed out, not presented as perfect, and each have their own time in the spotlight to shine. In Tagaki-san, Tagaki always wins, is never wrong, and is annoyingly playful. Nishikata might not be presented as perfect, but he's pathetic. You can sort of forgive this behavior because he's young and dumb and he's just a kid, but it doesn't help my enjoyment of him as an audience member. You can make a kid character without making them annoying. Look at Steven from Steven Universe. Maybe bad example.
Ho, brother, whoa, now. You got too much dip on your chip.
Every time Tagaki does something nice, or basically anything where she isn't like outwardly teasing him, he's always monologuing in his head like, oh no, Tagaki-san just sharpened my pencil for me. What's she gonna do? Oh my god, is she gonna fucking stab me with it? I'm gonna come. Are there any good characters in this? Yeah, I mean, in the dub, there's this nerd and his fat friend, and they sound like SpongeBob and Patrick. They're probably the only characters that I enjoy. And they're objectively just stereotypes, but they're not boring, so, you know, I gotta have an anchor, you know what I mean? Season 3 was the best season, but it's not even worth watching the rest because you have to go through so much nothingness to get there. The reason I moved Komi up to A was because one of the points I made for Komi was that it was boring. But even Komi, at its worst, had stuff going on. Sorta. This show is genuinely a nothing burger of a series, and I'm surprised it got as big as it got, and with how many fans it got. Just like I did not process it. Like, I don't get the appeal at all. You can probably cut this show down to like half a season and retain everything important, funny, or interesting that happened within it. That being said, again, season 3 is probably the best because it actually had some stuff going on. The play was probably the only thing in the entire show that actually kept me interested for the full duration of an episode. And it was nice how, hey, surprise, the trio of girls that I fucking hate, you know, they were interacting with Nishikata and Tagaki. It was nice. It was nice to see that. I enjoyed that. It's cool to see them actually interact for once. You know, like a normal show. The confession was also cute, even though it was fake. I liked the critical hit episode where Nishikata indirectly finally won against Tagaki and had her in her room kicking her feet on the bed like, tee! You know, that was cute. Like, there's stuff in here that can work, and that's the worst part, is that it was so close to being like a C-tier show, you know. It could have been a wholesome, comfy watch if it just had better writing and less EDP shit. I wanted to like this one. I wanted to get invested. I wanted to like the romance. But if both of the main characters and most of the side characters actively annoy or disinterest me, why should I care? Well, there is one thing you can do to make the show better. But I don't think you guys are gonna like what I have to say. Just hear me out. Don't flame me immediately, okay? This show is unironically bumped up a tier if you watch it in 2 times speed. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, now before you bash me in the comment section, okay, I watched this whole show at normal speed. Don't worry, I made sure to consume every last bit of this slop in the way that it was intended to be watched. However, in rewatching the show, while forming my opinions for this video, I skimmed it and played it at 2 times speed. And you know what? Fuck it. Watch this show at 2 times speed. It's better. It's unironically more enjoyable. It trims the fat, it makes some line deliveries more funny, and it just gets you through the shit quicker. Bear in mind, I would never recommend watching this way when talking about any other show, because I hate motherfuckers like that. Like, oh man, this show is so long, just watch it at 2 times speed. Because like then, like if you're talking about like a long show, like One Piece, like you don't get like the One Piece experience from that, but you lose nothing. You lose nothing from watching the show at 2 times speed.
Abducting people like you who don't believe in UFOs and then staring them straight.
That's fine. I wouldn't mind being abducted by you, Nishikata.
What the fuck?
Is there any other ways I would have fixed this show? Well, believe it or not, the mangaka already fixed it for me. There's a spin-off manga where Tagaki basically is an adult with a kid, and boom, that solves like half of my issues right there. Boom, that's all he needed to do, and instant C-tier show. But no, it had to be about fucking middle schoolers and weird fucking like Dr. Disrespect shit. The fucking manga where they turn into adults, that should have been the anime. That should have been the show. But that didn't happen. And as it stands now, I'm gonna get some flack for this, as if I already don't have a lot of angry Tagaki supporters in the comments flaming me right now. But hey, I'm just giving my opinion. I hated this one. I'm so sorry, guys. It's going in D. Honestly, I had more of an enjoyable time with Rent-A-Girlfriend, but this show is personally bad to me. I despised it. It is what it is.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I am for real.
We'll be right back with more commodity.
Hey, Nishikata. Oh no, it's Tagaki-san. How is she gonna tease me today? Is she gonna make me trip and fall? Make me sit on a whoopee cushion? Make me vote for Robert F. Kennedy's Jr.?
Wait, what?
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, just dandy. Why do you ask?
Well, I was hoping we could play one of our famous games.
You mean those boring as fuck games that you always win? Yeah, sure, I'd love to play one.
Great. If you win, I have to do anything you want. Got it?
All right, sure. What happens if you win?
You have to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Ready?
Mm-hmm, ready.
What state has the biggest yachts in the world?
What?
Wrong. It was Ohio.
Wait, that wasn't meant to be an answer. That
Next question. Who is the certified Rizzler of Livy Dunn?
Crap, I don't know the answer. I'm not a Sigma brainrotter like Tagaki-san. Maybe I can just guess? Kai-san.
Wrong. One more and I win, Nishikata. What do you throw at homeless people?
Ha! I know this one. It's microwaved honey. You fucking bitch. Fuck you.
Looks like I win. You know what you have to do now, right?
In a historic one-vote difference, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wins the U.S. presidential election.
Nishikata, this is me, Donald Trump. I'm going to fucking kill you and dox your address on Truth Social. Also, Uzaki is a better anime. Good night.
We're back with more commodity.
Get the fuck out my party!
Guys, I really wanted to like this one. I really wanted to like this one, especially after the disaster that was Tagaki-san. You don't understand. I really did not want to end this on a bad show. And I'm not. I liked it. It was good.
Gotcha, bitch!
Don't get me wrong, it's far from perfect. And to be honest, I have the least to say about it in comparison to the other shows on this list, because I think it's a perfectly middle-of-the-row, slice-of-life comedy. Nothing it does particularly well, nothing it does particularly egregiously. That being said, I still had fun with it, and it's worth a watch if you're interested. The show follows Futaro, a poor tutor enrolled at a wealthy school. He gets an assignment that pays insanely well, that being to tutor 5 identical quintuplets and to get them to pass their final exam. Problem is, they're all stupid or just bad at taking tests, and for all intents and purposes, they have no desire to get this broke-ass guy to teach them anything. The show starts with Futaro getting drugged and escorted off their property. I'm not gonna lie, wasn't expecting anything like that, and I gotta respect the fucking hell out of this show for that. Took me right by surprise, gave me a nice left hook. That's how you start a show. They say start with your strongest, and Quintessential Quintuplets has an extremely strong start. It's funny, it's got a cool premise, and the characters are all unabashedly dickheads, which is a nice change of pace. It's not that often that these shows start with characters actively hating one another. Instead, it's usually that they start off teasing but secretly like the MC the whole time, like, you know, tsundere shit. But no, these girls like hate Futaro going in, and he hates them. At first, the girls seem like nothing more than generic archetypes, such as the tsundere, the dere, etc. But as the show goes on, it works to develop these girls in ways I wasn't expecting. It's not like amazing character growth or anything, but it's more than I anticipated, and I like how each girl has a more niche interest to their name that helps with giving them a more fleshed out personality. For instance, Miku, yeah, like the Vocaloid, shut up, is revealed to have a crush on ancient Japanese warlords, which is how Futaro gets her to learn more about history. Ichika becomes a borderline antagonist later on in the series, which shows a devious side to her that I gotta be honest, I didn't see coming, but I did enjoy that a lot. And yeah, I mean, you could probably tell just by the premise that this is a harem, and it borders on being Sweet Home Alabama at times with its implications. Like, you look at the premise of the show and automatically assume it's going to be one of those, oh, I can't choose any of you, you're just gonna have to share my cock from now on. Sorry, shows. But thankfully, those thoughts were put to rest with the movie, which shows Futaro actually choose one of the quintuplets. I'm not gonna say who it is, because the choice itself is actually what led me to really enjoying the movie and the series as a whole. It's unexpected at first, but once you realize why he chose that specific girl, it starts making sense the more you look back on everything. Speaking of, one of the show's greatest strengths is that it constantly keeps you guessing on who Futaro is going to choose. I feel like with these harem animes, it's always sort of obvious. Like, it's either going to be the first girl that the main character meets, or like I said previously, the MC just goes polyamorous. But in this show, you never truly know until the final hour who Futaro is going to pick. Itsuki meets him first, so at first you're like, oh, it's gonna be her. But then Miku is the one to get development first and show her feelings first. But then Nino confesses out of nowhere. But then Ichika has a really cute moment with him and starts doing all this devious shit. But then Yotsuba comes out of the room with the steel chair. I'm not gonna lie, that sort of thing is really hard to accomplish. Gotta give this show some props for keeping me on my toes. I'd say one of my bigger issues with the show is the character designs. Keep in mind that doesn't mean the art or even the animation is bad, but more so the designs of the girls themselves. Every so often, you'll hear a background character or even a main character like Futaro be unable to distinguish the girls apart despite them looking like this. The problem I have with this is that they don't really look anything alike unless they deliberately attempt to look similar. I get this was done for our perspective as an audience member, but there's ways to do that without needing to sacrifice immersion. In addition, some characters just look really bad in the first half of season 1. Futaro in particular just looks really weird and off-putting, like he was animated by Michael J. Fox in a moving car. I do not fuck with his wimpy kid ass hair. He's very ugly. Finally, there's this weird recurring issue with this show where the adults, particularly the men, look nothing like adults. I remember this one scene where this random blonde 90s frat dude showed up in Futaro's house, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then they say it's his dad. I'm like, what the hell? They don't make it clear at all with the designs that it's supposed to be his dad. And they don't need to look like 100% alike, but like just small things would be enough. But no, they look nothing alike, and he looks nothing like a 40-year-old dad. It's just bad. There's also like a scene where I'm going off script, but there's like Ichika has like a manager or something, and it's literally just like a 16-year-old anime boy with a mustache. The adults in the show look really bad. That being said, when the girls decide to disguise themselves as one another, I think it serves as a neat gimmick that leads to a lot of great character moments. It's utilized really well. I really like how you, as an audience member, can tell which girl is which by their voice and, in some cases, the things they do. Like when Ichika disguises as Miku to tell Futaro that Ichika has a crush on him, or when all the girls decide to disguise themselves as Itsuki. They really do the most with this premise, and thankfully they managed to steer away from the more Alabama-esque implications of this kind of series, so, you know, thankful for that. This show is also, like, unexpectedly really funny. Dare I say, probably the funniest show in this video.
If anything, you ordered way too much food. Don't get fat.
What the?
There are so many line reads, especially from Futaro's dub voice actor, that had me rolling on the floor laughing. Who did this? The fuck? This is the voice of Armin, Jesse James Grail. That's the whole time. Wow. Hey, good for her. She did great. I could barely even tell it was them. Definitely one of the standout performances from this list. Go follow her on Twitter if you haven't already. Speaking of Futaro, man is a fucking Chad. If it weren't for Yuta's character development, he'd be my favorite protagonist out of all the shows we've watched, and that seriously means something after all the main characters we went over. He doesn't have any particularly strong arcs, and he's not exactly the most complex character, but he has enough going for him that I enjoy following him. I won't deny though, he is carried by the sheer charisma of the dub and the fact that at the end of the day, he's determined to get these girls to pass high school, which is admirable, and it makes you know that he's a good person, so hey, even if he's just doing it for a fat paycheck, you know, that's a side thing, you know, his heart's in the right place. He also picked who happened to be my favorite out of all the Quints, so hey, dude's got good taste as well, okay? Motherfuckers in the comments, you better keep quiet, okay? I'm watching. I'm reading every comment, don't spoil it for everyone. Just one more thing to mention is that I thought it was weird that they skipped over the finals. Like, for basically the entire series, they were building up to this climactic balls to the wall moment where if the girls don't pass, everyone is fucked. But instead of showing the girls taking the test, the scene cuts from them studying the day before to just before they take the test, and then it cuts to right after they got results. Probably not the most important thing in the world, and definitely a little nitpicky on my end, but I don't know, I just thought it was weird. But yeah, solid show overall. I'm gonna give it a B tier. You get up there. Alright.
Kids, we're free. We're finally free.
But yeah, thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of Loser Anime. Leave a like, subscribe. You know what to do by now. You've been on YouTube for long enough. And that's about it. See ya.
Wait.
Oh my god.
It's P. Dity!
Fuck out of here with that weak shit. Yes, I've come for you, commodity. I've heard of a punk-ass white boy who's stolen my name. That would be you, correct?
It's Dity! Dity! With a T! I didn't steal your nickname, dude! You're not gonna invite me to the Dity party, are you? I got kids, man! Please wait, I probably shouldn't say that around you.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not mad. In fact, I happen to enjoy your video on Loser Anime.
You did?
Yes. But you forgot one. My favorite one, in fact. Why don't you take a look at it now?
I think I went a little too hard on Tagaki-san. There's always a bigger fish. No matter how ironically funny this show might be, no matter how decent the voice acting is, no matter how cute the characters may look, no matter how acceptable the animation is. None of that matters because this show's concept is disgusting. Everything bad I said about Tagaki and Nagatoro's Jared Fogle content, you can apply to this show. Tenfold. They go beyond implication. And I'm not kidding when I say that it's literally just... Look at my lips, because I'm gonna censor it, and I cannot say it because it'll get me demonetized. Look at my lips. You ready? No exaggeration. Okay, not trying to be funny. Not trying to be cute. I'm dead fucking ass. What you're looking at is the absolute rock bottom of loser anime. It is the worst that it gets. And I sat through it all. Was my time wasted? Was there anything of value in this piece of shit? Well, let's find out. The show follows Masamune. Before you ask, yes, I had to Google his name. His parents divorce, his dad remarries, and hooks up with another lady with a daughter, Sagare. They never actually explain what happens to their parents past this point, but I'm pretty sure they both die, leaving Masamune with full custody of his sister. He becomes a famous webcomic author and discovers that the one who's been drawing the new art for his ecchi fantasy series is in fact his non-blood related sister. His sister, who by the way, is 12 years old. Oh no! The show is about her learning to conquer her social anxiety and come out of her room. Along the way, Masamune meets a ragtag group of other 12-year-old girls who all simultaneously have a crush on him, and yes, that includes his sister. This show is disgusting, not gonna dance around that, don't even want to talk about that, but let's rip it off like a band-aid. There is constant creep shots of Sagare, and before you ask, no, I'm not gonna show any clips or even stills because it's fucking gross, alright? But I'm going to extend the same benefit that I gave to Nagatoro and Tagaki-san purely for the sake of the review, even though from concept and execution alone, it's already an F tier. Alright? Sound good? Don't worry, the show doesn't stop being bad at its concept. For starters, can we not talk about how Masamune has not only a girl his age who is interested in him, and might I add, not his sister, but a MILF publicist too. What? Like what? What are you doing? You got two bad bitches right there. Get your head in the fucking game, dude. And like, yeah, you can make the argument that it's still pedophilic for him to get with the MILF because like he's supposed to be 16. But let's be real for a minute. Is that really worse than this? Obviously, there's no romance here, it's all lust. The mangaka is known for writing other stories like this, but the only reason I went with this one in particular is because it's seemingly more popular than his other big dumpster fire, Oremo. And there's only one season of Eromanga Sensei. This is a porn plot given 12 episodes and 2 OVAs, and that's not considering the fact that she's 12. The fact that she is adds a whole other layer of grossness to the whole thing. This really is a wish fulfillment show for the cretins of our society. I really want to say I'd love to meet an unironic fan of Eromanga Sensei, but I'd probably die within 5 seconds of getting within their stink aura. What I find so funny about this show is that it wants to convince you that the show is about Sagare learning to overcome her anxiety about her parents' death, but Sagare herself is barely even in it. Most of Masamune's time is spent with his other favorite 12-year-old girl, his single, rich, self-produced rival author, Elf. Yeah, her name is Elf, and she plays the piano naked. Not showing the clip for that. Here's a helpful drawing I made to illustrate it instead.
This is art.
How does the protagonist find himself in this position? Multiple underage girls just throwing themselves at him? Rather than being the mature adult and telling him strictly to, not do that, he just lets it happen. Like, I know this sick fuck is enjoying himself. And you might argue that even if he did, the show would still suck based on premise alone. But you don't know how desperately I crave for some sort of anchor, some rock in this show. Seriously, every time you think that there's going to be like a normal person in this show, it just throws you a curveball, and suddenly the character you thought was normal is suddenly also a pedophile. Elf has a brother who's pretty stern and well-behaved, so you think, oh great, this is going to be the guy that, you know, he's going to reprimand Masamune for all the Dr. Disrespect stuff he's been doing, right? Nope, nada, nuh-uh. Instead, he just, like, sees him applying sunscreen to his naked sister's back and asking for him to marry her. Like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Masamune is as generic as a protagonist as you can be. Sagari is the typical shy archetype with only a few things that make her, and I use this word very carefully, cute. Okay? But she's a fucking bitch sometimes, and I'm not gonna lie. I find it incredibly unrealistic that a 12-year-old girl would not only be this good at art, but also manage to find her way into contracting deals with high-profile manga publication. Like, this bitch does not know how to use a credit card. Elf is annoying, unlikable, and a thinly veiled love triangle that goes nowhere. You know he's gonna end up with his sister. Why waste the Alabaman's time? Do I even need to talk about the characters? Can I just get to the stupidest part of this show? Alright, stupidest part. You ready for this? Okay, so spoiler warning, you guys. I hope you weren't planning on watching this one, because I'm about to spoil the whole thing. I'm about to blow the case wide open, okay? At the end of this show, it's revealed that Masamune and Sagiri secretly knew each other online long before their parents met, and she was actually his first fan. She lied about being a college student, reading his early work, and said goodbye to him after she'd long extended the lie past what was acceptable. Do you realize how unrealistic it is for both of these characters to end up in the position they were in after that? Sagiri had to read all of his work, be his first fan. They both needed to get famous. They both needed to live in Japan. Both their parents need to live together, meet, fuck, die. All of that before the start of the series. That needed to happen. Are you fucking joking? The worst part is that there were no doubt talented people working on this show. Voice actors, animators, storyboarders, whatever. And I hope they got a fat check from this. It'd be the one good thing derived from this piece of garbage. Easiest F tier I've ever given, and yes, it's worse than Rent-a-Girlfriend and Tagaki by a fucking mile.
What's the matter? Isn't this what you wanted?
I watched it all. I watched all of it. I'm ashamed of myself. I can't believe I watched this piece of trash in full. I really am no different than you.
In what way?
Well, I watched it. And anyone who watches these shows are basically losers living in their mom's basement, right? I mean, they're just sad, lonely losers, desperately craving a woman's touch, lusting after 12-year-olds. I'm gonna have to start a Minecraft YouTube channel. Point is, I've watched these shows, and I've enjoyed some of them. I laughed. I cried. I cringed. What does that make me?
And so you're finally starting to understand. Commodity, you might be a loser, but it's not because you watch these shows.
Oh.
You are finally starting to understand that people can have other reasons for watching some of these shows other than just being lonely or a pedophile. They can find the characters charming or endearing. They can find the comedy entertaining. They can enjoy the comforting vibe the shows give. Or they can find the story engaging. Some enjoyment may be ironic, but some might be unironic. The pieces of media we enjoy don't paint a black and white picture of ourselves, but rather it could be a spectrum of things that culminate into our enjoyment of a loser anime. At the end of the day, it's just a guilty pleasure. You shouldn't go beating yourself up over them.
You know what? You're right. Thanks, Dity.
Shit, that's what I'm here for.
Wait. I didn't finish speaking. I was wrong. Just because you watched something slightly problematic and enjoyed it doesn't necessarily mean you're a no-life virgin loser. But you forgot something very important, Dity. There's a whole other group of people who watch these shows. People like you. You who watch these shows solely to jerk off to underage girls. You never cared about the plot, the characters, the animation, anything. You watch these shows to get your fucking jollies. And that is the key difference between us.
What do you say?
I'm not like you, Dity. Because you watch these shows to spank it. And quite frankly, that's some loser shit. In conclusion, watch normal porn instead. I'm done with this stupid concept. Dity with a T signing out. Good night, everybody!
It's Dity, bitch! And you know we run the city, bitch! How much I gotta pay for a titty pic? Subscribe!